Whoa, good morning. Welcome, everyone. This is Coffee with Creators. This is 42 West 18th Street, Adorama itself, and this is Kesha Lambert. Good morning. How are you? Cool. Let's, before we get into that really quick, guys, I want to thank, Flashpoint for sponsoring this. You guys know Flashpoint's the in-house brand here at Adorama. If you guys are looking to gear up and not go crazy with a budget, check out the options. I think there's more options in that brand than any other, and it's all supported here at Adorama itself. You guys have seen it. Whoa, I have audio coming out of everywhere. And I just want to thank Gotham Roasters for the coffee. Cheers.
Cheers.
Boom. What'd you get?
I got black coffee.
Yeah, I'm always going the black coffee.
Extra ice.
What's with the extra ice? Explain the extra ice.
I like ice.
Yeah, okay.
The more the better.
All right. I mean, I don't like it to get too watered down, so I watch the ice, but I also drink it fast, so it doesn't matter anymore. But Gotham Roasters, we like you guys. They're one block north of Adorama. Like, you could physically go through the block, you'd hit it. And my personal recommendation, check out the babka, cinnamon or chocolate. It's like my Sophie's choice every day. I don't know. Are you a babka kind of girl?
I'm not.
You're not a pastry chick?
Nah.
I get it.
I mean, I like sweets, but not for breakfast.
All right. Fair. All right, cool, guys. So if you guys want, while we're chatting, you can check out Kesha's work right there on her Instagram right here. And if you didn't know, Kesha is an awesome wedding photographer, a portrait photographer. You do a lot for brands, lifestyle-ish kind of stuff. But aside from being a Sony artisan, you're also a lawyer, which I think is like the coolest add-on to our what we have to do here.
Yeah, it's an interesting path that brought me here, but yeah. And interesting that I've met other people that are lawyer photographers. We are a rare breed, but we're out here.
But I think it's significant. I mean, look, if you're trying to make a living at this, you've got contracts, legalities, copyright. And I think the biggest one is people skills, right? Because you're constantly conversing with people. You're constantly in debate situations. You're trying to figure out ways to kind of get where you need to go with somebody. When you got a bride that's losing her mind, I'm pretty sure you've got it set.
Yeah, so I and that's one of the things I say about being my law background and running a business, that like the greatest thing that it has done for me is not necessarily
It's okay.
Bring it in. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not. So yes, it serves me well in terms of like having my house in order, but one of the best things that it's done for me is like everything that falls under soft skills, like relationship management, dispute resolution, like reading the room. Those kind of skills are just super important when you're working with people where the work is tied to emotion and working with people who have poured a lot into their plans, and they have a lot of like emotional tie to the work.
That's exactly what it is they've been waiting for this day for like a lifetime. Sometimes I look at weddings as their 15 minutes of fame. Like all their friends, look at us, we're center stage, right? And I'm just showing some of your work while we talk.
For some, it's interesting. I appreciate, so I do a lot of large multicultural weddings, but I also do my fair share of weddings where people are just showing up and getting married. They have the simplest of plans.
Look at how awesome her face. Look at this. This is like how excited
that was one of the grander weddings. I think definitely weddings are a chance for people to kind of express themselves creatively in the way they plan out their day and the experience they create for their guests. And for some people, it's just like they look at it in much simpler terms. What they care about boils down to, we're starting our lives together. We just want to get married, but we want it to be pretty. Yeah,
but they also want to document it, right? I feel like that's the biggest stress they have as far as our side of things go is I only got one shot at every moment.
Yeah.
And I better pick the right photographer. And I think you have a pedigree of work that shows like what you can deliver. And I think it kind of puts a little stress on us also. Like, oh, you want that again? I got lucky. Or like,
Well, I mean, there's a human element to it. This is not like, we're not machines. It's not copy and paste.
Right.
Yes, I have a certain skill set. I have like a way I see a scene. I have tons of experience, but I'm a human being. So like, there's no such thing as like copy and paste. Like I could be having a rough time, know, like, or, the circumstances of the day. Every wedding, you're dealt a different deck of cards. I look at it, those factors, those variables play into the outcome. And a lot of things that people don't understand too is they'll look at your portfolio and what's in my portfolio, yes, is attributed to my talent and how I see the world and all that wonderful stuff, but it's also attributed to the collaborative effort behind it. Like,
Right.
it's also, attributed to clients that say yes when I ask them, that are down to create together. It's, how, one of my things like that often gets overlooked is like people choose, they don't put a lot of importance in certain parts of the day. So they'll like getting ready, prep space, for example. They'll like choose like a hotel that isn't the best or something like that.
Oh, interesting.
And it's like, because they're placing importance rightfully on their ceremony and reception, but then, like when you're not when you're not choosing like your location and planning out the details of your day with the aesthetic that you want in mind, you don't get the outcome that you want.
Right. And they also don't, most of the time, they're not going to have an eye for what you're trying to get as an end result. Right. And they're just kind of trusting you for it. But then you're like, cool, you gave me all this junk when I needed this amazing stuff to work with. But odds are, you get to a place, I feel, as a wedding photographer, that you get hired by clientele that, you raise. You keep going up and up and up. You get these bigger weddings, and they go to amazing places. And some of these places are just fish and barrel, like gorgeous. Like you
absolutely slow pitch.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I think though that's one of the things I love about being a wedding photographer is that I've learned so much being a wedding photographer. It's taken a lot of fear out of unfamiliar circumstances. It's taken a lot of fear out of troubleshooting things, because when it comes to running into problems, I've run into quite a few. Oh yeah. And you have to think on your feet, and you learn in the process a lot. So, and I think it's also I take it as a personal challenge if I'm working an event or a wedding that does not have is not, the prettiest venue. It's cool how can I make this look fantastic? Like it's a personal challenge to find ways to push your creativity, to push your eye. So, and then you keep that in your back pocket for like, I was in a place like this before. Mm-hmm. The wood was this color. The light wasn't coming in through that window. What did I do that time? And that's where you start building, right? Yeah. But I always wondered, and also I'm not a wedding photographer. I shot 2 weddings in my whole life. I'll never do it again. Traded 1 wedding for my chess piece. That's not the first time I've heard that. Oh, no, it's just not my thing. I don't connect to it, but I do look at wedding photographers as a glamour press photographer. Okay. You're trying to glamorize and cover an event and get what happened, but in the most beautiful way. In a beautiful, curated, but you're still trying to get the truth of they really do like each other. It's not just for the money. Right. It's not just, so I feel like you're tuning into their emotions, their headspace. Mm-hmm. You're trying to give them what you think they want to remember about it. But I got to ask you, because I think we're in a different era. And we're in this world where Instagram shows all these weddings that seem almost impossible, almost like an impossible beauty standard. Mm-hmm. And then they're showing these like, that did not happen. Those seagulls are put in Photoshop. That tidal wave against the lighthouse didn't exist. Her dress wasn't that long. Right. Do you get these brides and grooms that are like, we want this fairy tale that never happened? And do you try to rein it in at all? So... This is gonna be good. All right. Process that. It's a good one, right? No, that is a great question. So, yes, there's a lot of perfection, and and I play into some of that perfection too. Even though I don't look at my portfolio and think that I present perfection necessarily, but I believe on the photographer end, when you're trying to attract a client, you're trying to attract the right people to you. You show the work that you think will speak to them, and you show the work that will excite them, and then in turn, people are looking at it and creating expectations around it, right? So, yes, I get some interesting. I've received some interesting requests, but I receive less and less of them. Okay. And I'm very intentional about that. I think I'm very big on open conversation, getting a window into people's heads, and making sure I effectively communicate all the things that that are possible. So I'm very big on creating a space where people feel like we're going to do something that is all yours, mm-hmm. versus trying to create this ideal that you've seen. We're going to create your own ideal, because I knew there are definitely, you see it all the time. You see it like there's one in particular I remember. There was this viral wedding that was like everybody kept sharing it, and it was like a winter, or I don't know if it was winter, but it's like this white beautiful wedding on a train. I don't know, you might have even seen it. It was so viral. You might not have, because you're not in the wedding world.
Yeah, I get a lot of horror stuff.
Yeah, maybe you didn't.
But
But if you're anywhere in the wedding space, you saw this wedding, air quote, circulating, and the thing is that it was AI.
Whoa, okay.
It was not a real wedding, and a lot of that is like it was this perfect design. Now, so there's a lot of skewed expectations that can be built around that. I had people who DM'd me and shared it and said, "Oh my God, this is beautiful. I'm gonna do something like this," and I'm like, "It's not real.
It's fake. It's fake."
Not real. But so there is that. It's getting really tricky out there these days, and I think that's where relationship management, communication, really effectively communicating what you do.
Right.
Like, I strongly encourage people to look at my work, or if they're working with an associate from my team, to look at their work.
Right.
Because that is what you're signing up for.
That's your expectations. But
Yeah.
they're also hiring you too, right?
Yeah.
You're a guest there. Your
Yes.
demeanor.
Mm-hmm.
Do they want to work with you for the entire day? Are you
Right.
going to make them feel like they want to be shot? That's a big part of it. I don't
Yeah.
think a lot of people realize that
Do
either.
you want me in your space?
Right. And it's just like portrait photography. Like, you got to connect a little bit to get that extra out of them. I think it's the same thing with weddings. I think, brides have an idea, but really don't know what they want most of the time. They just say like, this was amazing and that was amazing. And then you got to show them the stuff you've done so they can land somewhere.
Yeah. I believe there's a lot. We're overstimulated when it comes to inspiration content. And so
Don't inspire me anymore. I'm done. I'm enough.
Stop with all the inspiration. No,
Okay.
I love the inspiration, but I think it's it's very important for people for photographers to be able to sift through that.
Right. Keep expectations real.
Right.
Yeah.
But also, you'll have someone pulling something from this photographer and from that, and they're putting it all on one Pinterest board, and none of it is cohesive.
It's different points of views, different styles,
different lighting
color
styles,
grades,
different all of that. And it's like you're trying to get a window into what they like, and they like a little bit of everything. Yeah. And it's like, let's figure out what you like, what you want. Let's narrow this down, because these are all pretty, these are all beautiful, these are all stunning, but they're very distinctively different.
Well, for that, in my head, if I was doing this, I'd be like, well, let me get second shooters that have a totally different style than mine, just so they have options of a different point of view. But then you might go, well, no, this is a team effort to deliver one vision. So which way would you go on that?
So I'm very big on the end product being cohesive and tying into one vision. So
Okay.
I wouldn't. So and when I say that, one of the expectations of my second photographer, one of the things I tell my second photographers is that you're not on the hook. I'm on the hook.
Right.
I really want you to go play. I want you to push yourself. I don't want you to be over my shoulder.
You got it covered. I need the extra.
I need you to be in the cut, do that, definitely. I feel like a second photographer's role is twofold: insurance on important things, so they get a second perspective of it, but really you're there to just push and create.
Yeah.
But so even with that though, I wouldn't, for example, want someone who has like a very, I don't know, what do you call it, soft and whimsical style to necessarily blend in with my punchy high contrast.
Yeah. None of that airy stuff here.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, no, I'm not. No, but styles are styles. There is no right answer.
And I always say that my style is very Gemini-ish. It's adaptable.
Wow. Okay.
Because in that it ebbs and flows, like what lighting I may choose to set, what light, whether I choose to use the light in the space or add in created light,
right,
or how I'll compose an image definitely is inspiration driven, but it's still going to ring true to the look. I still want the end look, even though I'm adaptable, to look like my work.
Yeah, you want to be psyched on what you created. It's got to be your voice a little bit. Your
it's got
point of
to
view.
be consistent with
Because one of the things I deal with in the commercial makeup world is someone comes to me with let's say they want to make a portfolio. They drop down a book or an iPad in these days, and they show me all these images they want to create. And I'm like, none of these are real images. They're CGI'd or they're overly retouched to a point where the makeup doesn't even matter. And I know for a fact, a lot of the wedding photography you see out there is like a curated model that happened to have been more of a production for those shots rather than a wedding. How often do you get those as references? Like, this isn't even a wedding. These are two models that just met that day, and there's a catering table on the left you don't see. And, is that something you got to kind of rein in a little bit and kind of...
So I don't have to rein it in.
Okay.
So I don't think so. I think the people who present that work, if they're using that work to sell their work,
right,
they have to just make sure that they can live up to what they're showing.
Okay.
But for me, I think if someone wants to pull inspiration and say, hey, this is what I like, this is, or typically I don't get a lot of that. A lot of people are coming to me because they pulled in, I'm the Pinterest board, right?
Yeah.
So, and if I'm not, that usually is kind of an indication that they probably should be looking to book the person that is heavily, or the people who fit the style that is heavily reflected on their board. But I think when people do these style shoots where it's like models and not a real couple, or even these days I see again like a lot of AI inspiration that looks kind of convincing in many instances. It's up to the person that's presenting that to be able to live up to what they're showing, because they're very different set of circumstances when you have a controlled environment, when you're doing what is essentially a photo shoot versus real life event. Like, you do not have perfect conditions in a real life event. Sometimes I'll look at like a set of photos and I'm like, I got all of those photos. I did all of those photos in like 2 minutes. Like, that's not what you get when you do a style shoot. You have all the time in the world.
Well, they're also focused on the technique there. And I think some of those successful wedding photographers, in my opinion, have been the ones that are like, which is the weird uncle? Which is the cousin that only shows up to this event and they want to make sure they see them? Or, who's really important? And they get to know the key figures and they hawk them and they really understand the emotional connection. Because in the end, that's what the event is.
That's what it's about, yeah.
It's not, you can have the giant grand ballroom and the giant dress and it's all down those stairs. Great. You lived that moment for 3 seconds. Don't you want to see how weirdly drunk that cousin got that you hate, but you kind of thought he was funny that night? Don't you want to remember that in 20 years?
So this is one of my things that I'm just like, it's so fascinating to me. When you're a photographer trying to market yourself, the thing that is going to pull people in, 9 times out of 10 are those pretty pictures, right? Those perfect, like the portrait.
It's an ad, yeah.
Yeah. But the things that people care about, the things that people choose, the wedding album is what tells me a lot. It'll be these things that, these moments, the messier moments make it into the album.
Yep.
Like, messy meaning like, somebody crying, or somebody doing a split on a dance floor, somebody's grandpa doing a split on those are the things that people get printed. And yet it's not the thing that I should do a test. But if I were to post that kind of content or write about it, blog about it, show that kind of content, I think that would speak more to maybe other photographers. And I don't know necessarily that it would speak to the couples. Or to the bride, I should say to the bride.
Okay, but don't you think that's more about how it's conversed, right? Like, you get the beautiful, but this is like a series. If you actually like called it a certain thing, like the B-sides of the wedding or the deep cuts of a wedding, and you put those out every now and then, they're going to be like, I appreciate that you were looking for those. Yeah. Because those are the moments you really.
That's what it's about. That's the whole point. The space I'm in, though, I think there a lot of importance is placed on the visuals, which like by visuals I mean like the less on those real moments and more on those, wow, this is a really beautifully styled pose. Even this was like a lot of the more scripted things are what people will look and judge whether. But I've had, I've gotten the most beautiful feedback I get from a client that I've worked with is when they look at their wedding photos and they're like, I'm reliving my day, or
Right.
you know, when they say I didn't even know that happened.
Yes.
And that feels good to hear, and that's what makes them happy, and that's what gets them telling other people, or even strong-arming other people to book me, because they're like, I'm going to cherish these photos.
No, we just came back from Imaging, which is a conference, a big conference. You were part of it for a while. And this one woman actually said to me, she was like, one of the reasons I actually got into photography was because I hated my wedding photos when I initially loved my wedding photos. And I was so like sucked into this. I was like, what are you talking about? She goes, well, I got the fantasy, I got the fairy tale, I got the thing I aspired to think I wanted, but I don't remember that. I don't remember that sky looking like that. I don't remember this looking like that. And I said, wow, that's the first time I think I've ever heard someone regret the fantasy end of it instead of striving for it. And so she was like, well, now I wanted to try and see if I could shoot the way I wanted. And then she just got hired. She got hired for weddings and wasn't even doing weddings. So I think it's really interesting that in the end, you have to connect with the people that are shooting for you for whatever you're doing.
So important. I'm very big on, I'm nosy. So I'm very I'm nosy, not at stalker level nosy, but I'm nosy.
Your lawyer level nosy?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I love to find out lots of things about the couples that I'm working with. And then on the wedding day, I'm super observant, and I'm very aware of those little nuances. Relationship dynamics, I'm looking for them on the day. So important. Who's the matriarch of the family? It might not be the mother or mother of the bride or groom. It might be this auntie from somewhere else, or who's the clown, or who's this, who traveled from wherever else to get there, or what little item is so super, these little trinkets. There's so many layers of things happening on the wedding day between not only just the things, but the people. And so it's that being, your observation skills are super important to kick your work up a notch.
Absolutely.
Those are the things the nuances that, kind of level up your work.
I think, photographers have gotten a little bit away from observing and gotten into this throwing their ego into images. And when I say that, I mean, look at this amazing lighting I did. Yeah, but it's her photo. It's the bride's photo. What is she looking for? Oh, did you miss the brooch that her dead grandmother gave her that she hasn't said a word to? And these are the things you kind of got to tune into. And I think you, first of all, how do you manage all those stories? Right? If you're doing multiple weddings in a season and you're like, oh no, this was the grandmother one and that's the cousin one. How do you get tripped up at all with any of that? Do you connect to them? Do you stay in touch with them? I
definitely stay in touch with a lot of our couples. Definitely interact with our couples a lot. And yeah, I think some might say weddings are personal.
They are personal, but they're also public, right? They want to show it, Yeah,
they do want to show it. Now, mind you, not everyone. I do have probably could count on my two hands how many, but I do have couples that are very, very private. There are some, and I respect that too. This is not about, they chose me and they entrusted me, and they don't want to be in the limelight. I respect that. But I think, it's important to have that a relationship because of that personal component. And it can get kind of fuzzy when you're still a business transaction. So you do want to set healthy boundaries around the transaction component. But in order for the outcome to be, spectacular, you need to pour a lot of your person into producing the work.
Oh yeah, this is a relationships industry. No matter what you shoot, it's relationships. Even if you're shooting still life, tabletop, which you end up having to do anyway.
Yes, we do flat lays.
Yeah, all that stuff. But in the end, people have to want to work with you and have to say to someone, actually, they gave me a great experience, not just a great result. I mean, portrait photography is 100% like that because you're taking someone's vulnerability most of the time. And there's definitely portraits I've shot that will never see the light of day, but they wanted to show their burn scars from something they endured. Or I've done a lot of images for a double mastectomy that will never go anywhere but that person.
They're documenting something
they needed it
significant and it's
and
highly personal.
I'll tell you, my sister went through that, and I regret every day not getting that shot from my sister. Every single day. So don't underestimate relationships and what you can bring to it with a camera. And sometimes it's business transaction, but sometimes you just shoot, guys. There's a lot of stuff going on in this chat, and somebody actually said the one behind you's taking a lot of notes. Thank you for coming through. We appreciate it. You know, you guys are allowed to come to these, and you guys are allowed to ask questions. So let us know in the chat if you have anything you want to ask Kesha, or want to talk about anything as far as where we're at in this industry, which we were actually talking about AI because I feel like that creeps into everything, right?
Yeah.
But and you actually said you were thinking that when people say, "Hey, your camera takes great photos," one day
it will literally be true one day.
Yeah, but man,
we get so offended. You know, if you want to send a photographer into the red, just say your camera takes good pictures. But like,
I just give my camera.
Yeah.
I said go.
Yeah, go for it.
Go.
Since the camera does all the work.
Yeah.
No, but like these advancements in technology are getting, and in AI in particular, and how they're being married into the gear that we use and even into our workflow. It's exciting in some respects, and it's like, you know, what can you do? You have, you know, it's here.
Well, you're going to get to a point where brides are going to be like, well, they got their photos by the end of the day because AI retouched them and sent me a Dropbox. And I think that's going to be the first hurdle, is keeping up with someone that can deliver faster. But then we're going to deal with, I don't know, copyright, someone taking our images, they're scraping the internet. PPA is in Congress right now fighting for our copyrights because you'll find watermarks in those images when they're done with them.
Right.
You know, so what kind of law did you practice?
So I've did a little bit of real estate, antitrust litigation. My last job before I went full-time in photography was actually in compliance, so working at an investment bank in-house.
So do you feel like you have a bit of an edge on understanding this whole situation we're in right now? Because I think a lot of photographers are too creative to even think about.
So I feel like it's on a lot of people's radars, and I see the camp split. I see some photographers that are fully embracing it. They don't fear it. They're using it.
Right.
And then I see some that are very, 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 very concerned, and rightfully so. I'm somewhere, you know, I'm of the belief that when things advance in tech space, when these things happen in the industry, these shifts, you have to find a way to function with. You have to find a way to move with the advancements,
right?
Because it's so, you know, it's so widely used, and it's expanding and growing that it's really not going anywhere, and so we're going to have to find ways to evolve.
Assimilate, really.
Yeah, and yeah.
I mean, look, and when I say, every time I go live, I tell you guys, I was raised by 4x5 film photographers and hardcore studio guys that shot film and stuff like that. And I watched a lot of these guys become irrelevant slowly because they didn't do something as stupid as learn video that people needed for a few clips, and they wonder why they're not getting work, and then they sell their gear and try to figure something else out. If you don't realize that you have to find out where you optimize the technology for what you're doing, you are going to find a day where you're not as relevant to a wider audience, and you got to find that smaller audience that's still looking for you to deliver. If you're okay with that, that's fine. Right. But to fight technology is tough. What we have to do is guide it in the right way, because it's a bullet. Once it's fired and it's out there, we got to watch it, but we got to find out where we're aiming it. We have to figure out where AI is going to go for our industry so that we stay human. I mean, look at this. I got kids coming here every day. I guarantee there's an NYU kid back there trying to buy a film camera because they're just trying to find an honest image again.
Right.
You know, that's how crazy we've gotten. So in the chat, do you guys fear AI or using AI? I think a lot of people are looking at it as a retouch right now.
Yeah, using it for workflow, like retouching and editing it, that's what a lot of people are with it. I think, oh, and by the way, I saw a comment that there may have been some questions up above or something like that. Yeah. I don't know if but
no, we're in a crazy gray area, right? And fast. This is probably the fastest transition on things I think we've ever seen. This was like a few months ago. They were talking about like AI is coming. By the way, you're all going to lose your jobs now. Like what just happened?
Oh, that's what I wanted to. I think real events and real moments are safe. That is one thing that. Hi, Kesha. Have you ever had something shoot and you can't?
Did anyone ever request something to shoot that you felt you can't? Like if for a wedding, I guess.
Oh, for a wedding?
Yeah.
I can't think of a recent incident, but my answer would be yes, because I think one thing about
You
weddings.
okay? You want me to get you an apple box?
I'm a squirmy person.
Okay. Right.
I feel short.
You want me? I'll give you a box to put your feet on.
No, okay,
All right.
I'm okay. Yeah, my feet are swinging down here.
It's like a jungle gym down here, guys. It's like nuts. She's playing hopscotch.
I'm short.
It's like,
So yeah, so the short answer to that is yes, that has happened. That's one of the things I like about weddings is that I get put into, very early on, I've gotten put into circumstances where I'm encountering something new. So in terms of like a challenge, my big thing is always setting expectations around things. I'm
Right.
not unwilling to push myself, but I'm also very, very honest and very, very good about managing expectations.
okay.
I like to underpromise and overdeliver.
That's the key. It really is.
Like if somebody asks me to do something, I'm gonna be like, hey, I'm willing to try. I've never done it before.
But give it a shot. And if they trust you enough, they'll give
Yeah.
you a little bit more like time and patience to get
Yeah.
there. And nowadays you can show them what you're doing as you're doing it. So they kind of get an idea of what you're chasing a little bit as opposed to like, you'll find out in 2 weeks. It's like,
Right. I actually had something like that come up recently with a maternity session where the mom to be wanted to do some experiment with shooting through different fabrics and stuff like that.
Okay.
And that's not something I really do a lot of. And
Yeah, I just put one up.
but I thought it would be fun to do.
Like that.
And she showed me some like examples of like the aesthetic, and I'm like, she said, this is just my experimental thing that I want to do. And it was very deviated from all the other stuff that she wanted to do. And I felt cool, fairly okay in going there with her, even though it deviated from like stuff that I would normally do in my portfolio. And we had fun, and but it was just about communicating. Yeah, I don't really do this, but
Let's go for it.
Let's try.
If I go down, you go down. We're into
Yeah.
this, right? I mean, the way I do my shots is like I give them exactly what they're expecting from me. I prioritize speed on my sets. So I give them the shot they want. I give them a second shot that I know is different that I definitely can pull off. And then if I got 10 more minutes, I'll be like, cool, let's throw something against the wall because that might be my second shot the
Right.
next time we do something.
Right.
And you
Let's
can only
see
know
what-
till you
what-
try it.
Yeah. And that's how you know for next time.
The one thing I did want to ask about AI is because I know you kind of do a lot with Adobe. How do you feel about being part of the initiative to lend your images for their AI? Because you know how they're actually asking us, and it's like the moral way of doing this.
Yeah, I think that's ethical way of going about it, and I'm not mad at it.
Okay, would you go for it? It's tough, right?
My answer in this moment is probably no.
Okay. Well, a lot of your images are for the people you shoot, right?
Yeah, there's a very I do some still life as a part of weddings also, but I think a big part of my portfolio is very, very much connected to personal things.
Yeah.
And so like even, one of the things that I wouldn't necessarily use a couple's photos commercially without their blessing.
Oh, yeah, you can't.
Things, you can't.
No,
So
you can't.
You need them to. So it's like, and it's just an interesting conversation to have, because who knows what combinations and components of these very personal pictures, how they will end up. So that's why in this moment I feel like I'm inclined to. But I do think they're going about it the ethical way.
Yeah, I actually was like, you know what, that's pretty chill. Like, at least you understand the creatives that are using your product would not be cool with you doing this any other way. And so I think it's interesting where we're going to go. It's going to happen really, really fast. On a funner note, she was telling me that she shoots a lot with her husband on these weddings.
Yes.
And I really was into this in this conversation because she's like here and he's like here, and you got two different perspectives going on.
He's got like a good he's 6'5", so he's like
6'5".
Yeah, so he's got like he's a foot and 2 inches taller than me, or foot and it. He's much taller.
Is he like a lifeguard? You're like radius to like Kesha, get to the far left. There's something happening.
We have a very distinct difference in height, and it's our perspectives. I think it shows in when we shoot together, like when we do a wedding together. I can see the ones that are the tall person's perspective. And I was telling Seth that
He's like a drone.
Right, exactly, aerial view. one of the things I would tell him is like, you know, when he started shooting with me, one of my main requests was like, shift your perspective, bring that perspective down. So
meet me in the middle, man.
Meet me somewhere else. No, because you know, it's like that's one of the things that at my stature I'm very aware of. You'll find me often standing on things or getting low.
Yeah.
On my tippy toes sometimes.
Oh no, I've seen you at workshops. I've seen you go for it, and I've also seen your workshops go over the crowd of people that you were shooting to be like.
Yes. So, you know, I'm aware that I don't like. I like my perspective, but I'm aware that you know my vantage point. But I'm also aware that I need to shift it because it's very comfortable to like just stay inside of your
POV.
Yeah.
No, I think it's pretty interesting because I whenever I look at a team of photographers, I hope that they're kind of varied but come to the same point. So you get all the advantages, but you still get what you want, which is a cohesive end result. Just super funny. Talking about all the education stuff because you're in workshop like that. We were just talking about this like hands-on versus demo style, and I think we're on like
we're different.
Yeah, I mean, well, I just
you're incredible that you can multi. I call it multitasking. I whenever I'm doing a demo, it's very hard for me to, or whenever I'm shooting in general.
Right.
So even if I'm doing a demo, it's hard for me to like talk through process while shooting. I have to talk, then shoot, then talk. And you can talk through what you're doing as you're doing it.
I'm from Brooklyn. That's all we do. I mean, the hardest part is I can't talk with my hands while I'm shooting. I'm like,
you need to be able to do that.
It's what it is. But I think because I've watched you shoot, and for the what did we do? The Sony
was it no
A7R5 release?
Yes.
Yeah, and you were way more about the curation than like hardcore technicals, and I think people really appreciated that. You're like, this chair, this look, I want this look. You just kept going like you were going for this look, and that wasn't so technical, but you were explaining a part that I don't think people understand. That yes, exposure, great, cool, soft light here, great, but you're like, no, this look, and I thought that was really interesting the way you were conveying that.
Back from think about the look you want, and then reverse engineer it.
But even gestures, you were focusing on a lot of things that I think. Because how many times have you done a workshop and they don't even converse with the people? They're just shooting, going like this to you, like a cat that caught a mouse, like, and you're like, no, talk to them, tell them what you're looking for. I thought it was really interesting to watch your work.
That's where a lot of nuanced magic comes to life, right? So being I think one of my superpowers when it comes to working with people is that observing and being able to offer direction about those nuances. Maybe it's in the way they should be glanced, or the bend of their wrist, or the bend of their
way they glance.
Yeah, so I'm very like when it comes to body language, expression, things that I wanted to, a lot of things that look like look real, and they are real. They do have some direction and curation to it. And I think one of my superpowers is being able to bring that out of people in a way that is like very detailed. And so, yeah, that is one of the things that I'm maybe too fixated on sometimes.
No, that's your style. That's where you were looking for an end result. If you didn't have a vision, then you're overdoing it, right? But I think when you overdo something, it's when you don't have a clear goal and you're just constantly working it, hoping something works out. But if you have a clear idea result in your head and you're going, no, bend the fingertip a little bit like this. I'm a little bit like that too. I like it to be a little off. I like things to be a little, I just showed you the mascara tear girl.
Yes.
Like I want things to be tragic and they can't be too curated. But when you're, it's really interesting when people are shooting while you're explaining this, you can see them going like, oh, I didn't think about it like that. Oh, I'm too stuck on, I need this bouquet or something. They're all the YouTube buzzwords, all the clicky stuff. Yeah. But you're kind of going like, take a breath and look at her hands. I get it. Her face looks great. Look at her hands. I was very interesting watching you work like, and a crowd of people too, because you were like reaching over a crowd of people, and all you see is this hat and this hair, and she's like, because that's how I spot you in a crowd is the hat.
The hat.
It's the hat.
The big hair.
I was expecting a hat today. I was gonna have a whole repertoire on hat here. That wasn't gonna happen there.
Didn't wear a hat today.
Brad is right. Body language is key because no one's talking in an image. That image is the language.
That's so true.
Yeah, everything we put in a frame is a word in a sentence, and it's got to make sense at the end because no one's reading your caption. Don't worry about it,
Body language, expression, and
Come on, Charles, you dropping stuff?
I needed to. Sorry.
Yeah.
If you guys don't know,
Stealing our thunder over here.
We'll get you on here one day.
Hi.
Adorama community at work, guys. So as far as industry goes, because we did the A7R5 release, how long have you been in the artisan program, and what did you aim for that? Did it just happen? How'd you go for that?
So it's not something that I set out to do or be.
They just grabbed you by the hand and said, "Come with us." And then
Sort of, no. So I've been in the program for 4 years and very proud to be a part of the Sony family. And I think my journey with Sony is a testimony to, there are people who are working on your behalf sometimes that you're not even aware of, people noticing you that you're not aware of.
Oh.
So, I honestly believe that me being in the artisan program is the result of one, like just doing the work, doing the work, focusing on, having your doing your work and having your defining style, and also there are people who are rooting for you, and it's the result of, honestly, I think people floating my names in spaces I wasn't aware of.
Okay.
So that's what got me here. And it's been so far a beautiful experience. It's a very supportive community, a lot of initiatives that are exciting. I love the gear.
Yeah, we all love the gear.
We love the gear.
All gear is good gear. All gear.
So yeah,
But
that's how I got here.
No, I think one of the things I think people don't take for granted is people talking about you and what you're doing when you're not there. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is your impact, right? And that's one of the reasons I go to the trade shows so much, because we do all these videos, we throw them to a void, 20,000 views, but you got like 40 comments. Well, what happened to the other 20,000 people that watched, right? Mm-hmm. And when they come back to you and they quote something or talk about an image you shot that you forgot about, and you're like, what?
Right.
That's when I think you really realize, maybe I'm not wasting my life.
Right.
Oh my gosh. Oh, Eric Bird, this guy comes to everything here. Eric, are you coming by later? Because at 5 p.m. we got Anya Auntie going live with some editing right here at the space. So you guys welcome to come to that. A lot of Canon shooters in the
we're
in the
Sony
chat.
people. I saw Miguel up there.
Them's all cameras, fantastic. Yeah, you just got to find what works for you. It's not really a brand thing. It's more about what interface jives with the way you work, and what image result, like some different color tones, different all sorts of stuff. I think that's kind of the fun of the journey, is also finding the equipment that speaks with you. Yes, it can get expensive and get frustrating, but now you can go to a store, get in your hand, take some shots, feel how the buttons are, nothing's worse than a tool that makes you not want to do what you're trying to do. Mm-hmm. When there's a camera that makes you want to pick it up and you don't even think about it and you're just doing what you want to do. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Especially on a wedding day, forget it.
You want to be able to create without having to be too caught up in the mechanics of what you're doing.
Yeah.
You want to be able to, I feel like that's where the focus should be, is on being able to create your work, and you having the tools that make it possible.
Right.
Or make it, efficient, or, help you to execute what you want to execute.
Less of a divide from what you're trying to get. Mm-hmm. I've seen a lot of people in these chairs give up after a while because they just didn't have tools that were making sense for the way they think. Mm-hmm. And it's just really interesting to watch people try something, and all of a sudden 2 years later they come back like, hey, what happened? Well,
right.
This thing made things easier for me.
There's a lot of imposition, there's a lot of people out there telling you what you should be using and what you should be doing, and so it's very easy to get caught up in that, and it's not serving you. So you need to really figure out what tools you need to create your work.
Yeah. And a lot of it is just noise, because a lot of people aren't sure about opinions for themselves, and they'll just absorb opinions that seem to be popular out there because it's just every YouTube thumbnail saying the same thing. Well, then that's what I believe. It's like, no. Take a breath and find out for yourself. One of the things I want to touch on, because we're flying here, trends in weddings, right? Mm-hmm. Do you chase trends? Do you try to create your own trend? Because I think that's the toughest part, is or do you just do what you're going to do, and if it becomes a trend, you start telling people I did it first.
I don't think about trends, and I don't claim trends, even if I see something that, I couldn't even tell. So trends, me thinking about them, are not a part of my process.
Okay.
I will say, but the clients that I serve, they're very much, trends are very much on their radar. But I think I would split it down the middle. I attract a lot of people who are similar mindset, they're the trendsetters.
Okay.
in that they're not thinking about trends, they're doing their thing.
Right.
They want to do their thing. And then I have people in the camp that are like, you did this wedding, or like this color is the it color, or doing these, you know, like recently it was like, which was a trend that I like. There was this recent trend where, you know, table shots, which is the bane of my existence. I don't love. They're important, but I don't. You know, like the couple.
Send your husband. Come on, he can get overhead. He can get.
No, but I just feel like it pulls a couple away. It's important because these people the guests came to celebrate you, but they're going from table to table. It's very time consuming. So there was this trend where people were doing them. You had until the length of a song. It was like a race for them to get to as many tables as possible, and they had to do any kind of kooky thing or fun thing or formal thing at each table. But they picked a song, and by the time that song, the goal was to have gotten a picture with every table. So this thing
sounds like Double Dare.
Yeah, Jeez. It was fun. So those kind of trends are cool, but I think couples will come to you. They're very aware, and there's a lot of, you know, I'd split it down the middle. There's a lot of wanting to emulate the things that they see, and sometimes it benefits me in that, like, you know, if, for example, there's something trending that my portfolio fits with, I'll benefit from it. Or it'll become a drag because I'm getting lots and lots of requests to do this specific thing.
That's not really if you're driving with, right? There's
So
a lot of weird trends in wedding because it's mainly driven by people who don't shoot.
yeah.
So they see things like, you like this, and you kind of gotta understand where they're coming from. But
So, I mean, I'm of the mind that, yes, I want to do what I do, but also I am providing a service. So if a couple really wants something, I'm not saying I wouldn't do it for them.
Of course, no, yeah.
I'm going to do it. I won't show it. You enjoy it.
well, there's a question in the chat from Eric. He's like, how do you get clients? I mean, I think he asks this every time because he's really trying to get himself out there.
I love it.
But you're talking to someone who's got a great client list. So let's hear it. What's your take?
Sure. So this is going to be probably a boring, possibly disappointing answer, or maybe very helpful. I don't know. But I think my biggest lead refer and in terms of having the highest close rate. So the people are relationship driven referrals. So, and I'm talking authentic, real relationships. So this is like other vendors that I've worked with, people who I know. Like if I've done, for example, a big lead source for me are like Greek weddings. So like
my people?
No, not your people.
My people?
Greek as in the sororities and not your people, but as in like AKAs, deltas, AKAs, delta, like the fraternities
right.
and sororities. So like, you know, when you have relationships with individual people, those connections, those are big. And they're the best quality leads. So people you have a connection with, and you can foster those kind of I could do a whole think piece on this, but those relationships, even if you don't have them, you can acquire them in a way that is a very quality relationship, but that's a conversation for another day.
Okay.
And then another important kind of thing that people find me through blind Google searches.
Nice.
And they also find me through social, so TikTok, Instagram, or...
But they find you like by location based, like they're trying to find it on Google, like location wise?
So yes, so one of the things, and I would like to, who is it? He is the organizer behind a conference. I don't know if you remember Mystic Seminars.
No.
Okay, so his name is Walter. His name is Walter. I don't know
how he was.
Forgive me, he's still here. I'm actually not in touch with him anymore, but he's the one who recommended I do this, and I think it's been very helpful for me, which is basically creating hyperlinks to specific venues, types of weddings, genres of weddings. Like if you look at the bottom of my website, I have a ton of hyperlinks to blog posts. So, for example, if somebody's getting married at Cipriani's, they can click on the link and go see every wedding not every wedding, but see weddings that I've done at that venue.
Nice.
And so I'm still blogging and keywording and things like that. So I think I'm not an SEO queen at all. Don't know a ton about it, but I spend a lot of time, kind of working on my back end when it comes to blogging. And then I created those links. So that is, I think, why people find me through searches.
Okay.
And I do a lot of, niche keywording and stuff like that. So what ends up happening, I will say my close rate is like when I say close rate, people who actually end up booking, who find me that way, is lower than the people who find me through relationships. I was just talking about this with a friend. People choose you with people work because of emotion, because of convenience, like, oh, you've done the wedding at this place, because of a sense of you're trustworthy. Oh, my 1800, my cousin and my auntie and my coworker used you. So when it comes to weddings in particular, those relationships are the best quality leads because they're trusting you. They're giving you big money for a future dated service. And there's a lot of trust involved in that. So those are better, like if somebody finds me that way, they're going to book.
Yeah, I think it's just tough when you're starting because you have to build those relationships to vouch for you. That's the toughest thing.
So you have to be patient with that process. There are other ways to get work. In the meantime, it definitely is like planting a seed that's going to bear fruit years, sometimes months later. But you have a network when you're starting. We're doing people work. You have people.
Yeah,
we all have people.
And you kind of have to look at the peripheral. So I actually dated a girl who did a bunch of shots for restaurants, and they ended up booking weddings and referring her as the photographer. Or she shot for a flower shop once, and it led to like years of just endless referrals. I was like, man, she's crushing it. I don't know where you are right now, but whatever. But I mean, you have to think a little outside of just this. What else exists to drive into this? When I shot for the makeup industry, I did a lot of product packaging stuff, which then led to other things, right? So you got to kind of think of peripheral to get into the core of things sometimes.
I think almost any like area of focus that you do in photography, those relationships, but especially in personal work, but any area, those relationships will get you a better quality of like client referral and better, and it's like it's a branch that's going to branch out, because of that relationship tie. And yes, in the beginning, you're going to have to be patient with the process of growing it. Yeah,
it doesn't happen overnight, and you also got to be out there. Opportunities are created by you. So if you're just cool with that DJ at that wedding, that you got that one wedding you booked, they're going to remember you. Get them that extra plate of dinner.
Right. Yeah. No, seriously, though.
I know.
Seriously.
I get it.
Like, listen, we remember, I think people were, even for me as a photographer with other vendors, I know that, like, florists, people who had their hands in the wedding, they can't get portfolio work of the wedding. They can't take pictures of their work that was a part of the wedding. So one of the things that I do, and I think a lot of photographers do, is share photos with the vendors. Like, you can pull photos relevant to those vendors. They appreciate that. Those are little things, little gestures that are easy, that people like, oh, this photographer hooked me up. Like, but just little things like that, I think, or even just, yes, you're there for the couple, you're there for the client, but, maybe I'll get a really cool vantage point of the, the favors or whatever, because, I know, that vendor will appreciate it. Little things like that, people really appreciate.
Yeah, and you got to remember, a lot of things that we shoot are gone after that day. So having they don't want just their phone photos sometimes, I think venues are constantly looking for every type of event that happened there so they can show an example and that people can visualize and go, you know what, I could have my thing here, so. Oh, yeah.
So, and that's the other thing. So venues do request, they're aware, like they will request if they can share a photo on social and stuff like that. Give it to them.
Yeah, no, it's crazy.
Because a ton of people find me on a venue, like a venue's Instagram page.
Oh, I'm sure. So, forget it. I'm totally believe that. So, just look at the peripherals, what I would say. Before we jump out of here, I do want to talk about WPPI because we're both going to be there.
Yes.
You are doing a photo walk?
I am doing a photo walk. It's an engagement photo walk, the editorial engagement. So it's just going to be like storytelling.
Beautiful.
Approach to engagement portraits. So I love doing stuff like that. We'll get to see me do some of those nuanced directing of body language and facial expressions.
Yeah, the photo walks are interesting. I do my walks differently at WPPI. I walk them 3 whole inches and I sit them down and I pull out a travel monitor. I'm not kidding you. And I just do a demo.
Oh.
I don't really like photo walks. And I'm going to be, you guys can hate me. I don't care.
So you don't encourage people to shoot?
No, because I've watched photo walks where people spend an hour not knowing how it was set up, can't recreate it, get 2 shots for 5 minutes, and then stand around waiting, gawking, and then they go to somewhere else and do it another 3 minutes. And then they leave there, and you ask them what they got out of it. They go, maybe it's something for my Instagram. But if you give them a demo and go, now you've got the entire rest of this show to go shoot something, you'll see
test what you just learned. I love that. I will say that when I do a photo walk, I tell people that taking pictures is optional. Like, I love the person who attends the photo walk and observes.
That's smart.
And I think it's important to come to, especially if because the walks get large. If they,
Well, that's okay. First of all, if you see a 50-person walk, it's
There's
meant
no way.
Are you kidding me? Like,
There's
what are
no
you
way.
doing? Hang out. Don't
Just
try
chill.
to. Don't go and shoot. If you didn't sign up for that class, you are inhibiting everyone.
Yeah.
All right. I hate to be like this, but those WPI walks turn into like army ants everywhere, and you're like, no one's getting anything out of this. And the model's like this, and they come back traumatized. We got to give them a blanket, right? We're putting them in. No,
So I've never done a photo walk for WPPI.
Oh, really?
No, I've done platforms.
Yeah, platforms I
but
like platforms.
Yeah, so this will be my first time doing a photo walk for WPPI. I did not know they get beat. I knew they were larger, but
They're just like a magnet. They're like a static electricity that people just and
nice.
like, how did I just turn around? There's 30 people. There's 12 people on my list. Chill out. If you're going to do that, try to be respectful of people who actually signed up for those walks.
Yeah.
But the demos, I think people get way more out of them. You can answer questions directly and be like, oh, you're trying to do this? Well, let's go do it. And I just
Right.
do it in front of them, and they go click, 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 and they get it. I just did the demo at Imaging, and you got 700 people staring at you. No one wants to shoot. They're absorbing. And then the next day I'm watching mascara tear girls everywhere. Like, people are trying
Really?
to. Yeah, it was really cool watching
they're
people
testing
try.
out what they.
Dude,
That's
that's
because
the
it's
best
how
part.
can you. That goes back to it's hard in that period of time that you have to like get to test while you're learning.
Oh, yeah.
And you need more time.
At a trade show, if I see by the end of the trade show people shooting with pizza box reflectors, I know I made a difference in this industry. So, but it really, you have to find the way you also learn. A lot of people want to sit and watch videos. Some people need to go do it while someone's next to them. So you have to find the format that works for you. And it also, same thing for us as instructors.
Yeah.
If a demo makes more sense to you than a walk, but I think sometimes you get a shot, someone shows to you, and you can work with that one person. The problem is you got 50 people that show on the walk at the same time. So it's tough. It's tough. But the shows, I think everybody that's trying to do this for real should at least go to something at least once and see what the community is.
Yes, it's an incredible experience. I remember I was not very much big into attending conferences way back when,
But now you're a rock star, and people are like,
now
oh,
I go
Kesha.
to them. Not only go there, but I'm speaking at them.
Yeah.
But WPPI was one of my first big. It was probably my first big conference experience, big. And I went once, and I think this happens with a lot of photographers. You go once and you don't stop going. you always want to come back. It's really incredible to meet people that you've only seen on the internet, and to learn from people you admire or whose work inspires you, and it's
Yeah, and you're not alone.
Yeah.
You get to actually, because I think as photographers we get like this, we
Yes,
get very
you get in your
isolated,
bubble.
and you're throwing work out there like messages in a bottle, hoping it'll go somewhere, but only your mom hit liked, right? So you got to figure out what else is out there, or just hearing different point of views instead of the same 3 pieces of gear you see pushed constantly, everybody using it, or the same styles, or you see it in front of your face and you go, oh, it's not like that.
What I appreciate most is the business education component, because that's one of the things that we want to learn how, photographers, we care about the art and all that stuff, but you learn about things that you can apply to make money.
Right, Which is my worst part of my game, honestly. My whole career has been, what do you want to shoot? How much? Cool. I'm free. And that's my whole business model, which I know I've lost a lot of money. I told you I've signed a lot of bad deals. I've lost a lot of rights to images just to get the rent that time.
I'm sure you're not alone. Some of the things I've seen people ask me to sign, I'm just like, wow.
Yeah, but you know what
y'all
though?
doing?
You think that's how it goes.
Yeah.
You think cool, I got through this one. What? I'm getting $1. Awesome. You don't, there's a point
And I'm giving you everything.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
signing over my.
You don't, and
Yeah.
sometimes you got to grow up and actually see how this is done by the reality of the industry. Also, it helps our industry be protected as far as people not getting over on us, and us being able to afford that next lens, that next camera to feed yourself, to retire.
Right.
Insurance, crazy idea, right? But we have to protect this as a profession, as an industry, and as a community. So without the community, there is no industry. And you guys are this community, Whoa, you guys said a bunch of stuff. I'd like to get Seth to get behind decks and teaching. No, I'm not doing decks. Okay.
No, Dex, you're not going to do.
I do not understand PowerPoint. It will never happen. But listen, I think, part of the way people have to teach is the way it makes sense for them as well, so they can relay it genuinely. If you put me behind a podium and a PowerPoint, you're getting the worst version of myself you will ever find. I can't show you a Google graph and stuff. No, give me a camera. Let's get sweaty and figure out how we're going to get this shot.
That's great that you know what your teaching style is and what you do.
So do you. You just said it. Are you kidding me? I think,
self-aware.
But I think you have a lot of aspects to it, because you're also showing a business side, and I think you also have, especially with the lawyer background, you can actually help some photographers like really give them to protect themselves and read contracts. Gosh,
read them. Yep. Read.
I should show you some of these contracts.
Somebody mentioned model release, but read those the wedding venues. They send out some things for us, the vendors, to sign. I've come across some interesting ones.
Really?
Yeah.
Like you can't share or something, or
no,
they own the rights.
Like
or something?
no, like not only like release liability kind of stuff and things that like basically we shouldn't be signing, because not just the liability part is fine, but like when you're assuming responsibility for things that don't fall under your umbrella.
That's nuts.
That, you got to just make sure you read what you sign, because I think a lot of times people sign them in autopilot.
Just because it's like they got a job.
Right.
Which is what happened to me over the years. Anyway.
It happens.
Oh my God. Listen, guys, if you guys want, you can check out Kesha's work right there on Instagram. Go hit follow. She loves 10 tons of DMs, and every question you ever think about, just ask her.
I answer DMs. I do.
No, I know. She's chill. She's chill. But go ahead and follow. It's really beautiful work, and you can stay up on what's going on in her world. And also, if you're going to be at WPPI, we're both doing walks.
Yes.
So you can sign up for them.
I'm doing a workshop also.
Oh, what day?
On March 6th. So it's centered around just one part of the wedding day, the getting ready part. So just going over capturing real moments, styled bridal robe shots and details, like doing detail shots. So that's one of my favorite parts of the wedding day. So
that's important, and I think a lot of people don't get that. You usually get like the same shot of the bride and groom going like this.
Yeah.
Did you guys learn how to do this yet? You can't be a wedding photographer.
The forehead bump.
They have to share a thought telepathically, or they can't get married. I want to know what, I always say, what's the divorce shot of that? Like, are they ripping their minds apart? It's like Days of Future Past, like raw. But anyway, guys. Later today at 5 p.m., Anyanti's going to be here editing live, and that's going to be on the Adorama Events channel. If you're not following that channel, you're missing out. That's what happens in here. Adorama Events right here on YouTube. Check out Kesha's work. Check us both out at WPPI. We'll be doing something else. We always pull you in at some point. If you're not busy. He's like, I
always got time.
Yeah, no, she's chill. And, keep up on this channel, because we got a lot of stuff coming out all the time. If you're new here, go ahead and subscribe. Don't forget to like. She feeds her family on likes, so hit the like button.
Yes.
The only way.
And these teenagers, they need lots of likes.
They need so much validation. Please help my children. Oh my God, I can't thank you guys enough. And if you're new to this series, there's 15 episodes of this so far, so do yourself a favor and check the backlog of it. But thank you so much for being part of this.
This was fun.
Well, I don't think we've actually sat down for like ever.
No.
Like ever, like really.
No,
but
no.
It's cool. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for joining us. We will see you on the next one. Next week's Valentine's. I should have you on Valentine's. But my
missed opportunity.
My Valentine's gonna be David Bergman. We're gonna be Valentine's, I guess. I don't know.
Talking about love.
Talking about nerd stuff. Guys, thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Everyone.
We will see
Thank
you.